Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to Culz Interviews. Once again, we're going to be delving back into the world of paranormal, which is always very exciting for us. And we got another paranormal researcher here who has an experience that I think you guys are really going to enjoy hearing about. And it really kind of delves back into stuff we've been talking about a lot lately is what was the aha moment for a person getting them into the paranormal? So, Julia, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, do you want to tell people a little bit about your background as well as that first experience that got you into the paranormal?
sure. So my name is Julia Sims. I'm a cryptid researcher out of Sarasota, Florida. Um, so this whole thing started off, I would say, because of what I think was an alien encounter that happened when I was about 13 years old. And because of that, it led me into the cryptid world because I started noticing similarities between experiences that people would have, whether it be, an alien encounter, and then the people that say that they had seen a Bigfoot would see the same sorts of things. And then people that think, oh, I saw a ghost. It's like, okay, well, the same thing happened when this person over here saw a Bigfoot. So I kind of think all these things are related, and this is why. So when I was 13, I was spending the night at my best friend's house, and one of our other friends was there. Their names are Veronica and Caitlin. So we were all sleeping on this big futon bed that was in her room. And in her room, there's a sliding glass door that went out to the pool that would go out to the backyard. So we woke up the first morning, and instead of being on the futon, I was curled up in a ball. I had no clothes on in the middle of her floor. And they woke up and they're going, "What are you doing on the floor?" And I said, "I don't know. That's obviously really strange." So I get up, I'm looking for my clothes, and they said, "What's that on your back?" And I didn't feel anything. It wasn't raised. It didn't hurt. If they didn't tell me it was there, I wouldn't have even known. So I went and I looked in the mirror, and at the base of my spine, there was the circle, I would say maybe about 2.5 inches around. So it had, I think it was 6 different perfectly shaped symbols that went around in a circle. And then there was one big circle in the middle that had a diagonal slash through it. So, we're kids, mind you, when I'm telling the story, keep in mind, we're children. So we don't know really how to react. A lot of the things that we probably should have done, we didn't do because, we're kids. So the day goes on. We go out later on and we meet some friends at a movie theater, and we're waiting outside to go in. And I start saying, "Guys, I really don't feel good. I think something's wrong. I think I'm coming down sick." And so before the movie started, I got so sick. I turned to them and I'm like, "I think that we need to leave. We need to call someone to come, call our parents to come and get us or something. Like, I think I'm going to pass out." So we get back, we go back to Caitlin's house. So this happened at Veronica's. We go back to Caitlin's. We try to tell her parents, about the thing that was on my back. And, it's like, "Hey, Julia's getting really sick." Her parents brushed it off saying, "Oh, your friends are playing a prank on you. There's nothing actually going on." So we didn't want to call my mother because at the time my mother was a pretty severe, severe is the wrong word, a pretty devout Pentecostal Christian. So anytime that anything happened that was outside of her beliefs that my best friend was involved with, she would get real mad. She didn't want me to see her anymore. And she's my best friend. So like, don't call mom, I'll never get to see her again, because she was in she was a Wiccan at the time. She was in a coven. So she calls the coven leader, I forget, the high priestess, calls this woman, explains to her what's going on. She goes, "Well, to me, that sounds like that could possibly be like some form of magic or something." So they told them to do something like a form of mirror magic. So they're doing whatever they can, their kids are like, "All right." So they cover the mirrors, they do the thing. I start throwing up. And I threw up this black sludgy type substance that had these little round type of, they almost kind of look like milk duds. So she takes that, she throws it out. I passed out, and I woke up shortly thereafter. And they said that after I had thrown that up, said that that thing on my back faded almost instantly. And then I was fine after that. So I didn't think too much about it. Obviously, I thought about it quite a bit as a teenager, but I didn't seriously look into it, because I didn't really know what it was. And then I saw something on crop circles, and to me, what that symbol looked like is pretty identical to a lot of the crop circle pictures that you'll see. I mean, and when I say this thing was perfect, like it looked like it was put on with a stamp. Basically, it was like a dark brownish sort of a color. Um, and then I found a woman who was in one town over from where I live here in Sarasota, and she had put it into a forum, and something similar had happened to this woman, but she was an adult when it happened to her. So she went to a doctor, and what the doctor told her is that, well, I don't know what it is. Same thing though. It didn't hurt. It wasn't raised, anything like that. He's like, but to me, that's what a radiation burn looks like. So then when I was about in my mid 20s, because I couldn't remember anything about that night, especially why I woke up on the floor, I thought, all right, well, let me go to a hypnotist. But I didn't want to go to the classic hypnotist. A lot of times that'll be like a psychiatrist or something. And for fear of being locked up, like a loony bin or something, I found a woman in my town who does past life regressions. So I figured, all right, I can tell this woman what actually happened without her thinking I'm insane. So she put me down for a little bit. Apparently, I don't go down real easy, but when I did, apparently what I said that she was able to pull up is that at some point in the night, I got up and went through that sliding glass door and went into the backyard because there was a big light outside. And I went towards whatever that was. And that's all she could get. So I start looking into that more. I really start doing a lot of alien research, looking at UFO sightings and things. And then I noticed that a lot of the same things that were happening to people that have alien encounters were happening to people that are having Bigfoot encounters. So I thought that was really strange. And then I look into, people that have ghost experiences. It's like, that's funny. A lot of the same thing that happened to Bigfoot and alien people is happening to ghost people. So now what I've been doing is sort of studying all of these things and trying to figure out how they're all linked.
Yeah, no, very cool. And that's very important in the research is finding the similarities, because that's how we're going to, progress the study of this. Now, as far as like the design and the circle, have you come across people recently that have maybe had the same, thing pop up on them?
I've never actually met anyone. I know, like, I've read a lot of stories and heard people on podcasts and documentaries that describe something similar that had happened to them, but I haven't met anyone in person. I probably would have at this point, but I didn't start publicly telling people about this until it was less than a year ago that I started doing things like this and kind of telling that story. And it's funny because people write into some of these podcasts and they'll say, oh, I had this experience that was something similar to it. And then they've got their own theories on it. So I know it's happened to other people. And what's interesting is especially females around that age, 12, 13, 14, right around the time that women begin to become fertile is when these things happen. And if you subscribe to the hybridization alien sort of agenda, that would make perfect sense if that's what it is. I'm not saying it is, so don't come for me, but I'm not saying that's what it is.
Just a working theory right now, right?
Yes, this is a working theory. This is a discussion, people.
Yeah, that's why we got to go out and do this research. It is hard with aliens and abductions to do the research. I think I've had this conversation with Sam, is looking at the different fields of paranormal. Like, I think cryptids might be the easiest to study. Well, no, I think ghosts are, because it's usually one location. But cryptids, I feel like you might have the best chance of getting something. Like with aliens and UFOs, our buddy Alan saw the Phoenix Lights. We could go to Phoenix today. We're not going to see it again.
Right.
And so I think that's what makes it really hard to study. How do you go about like looking into UFOs? Is it just collecting the anecdotal and just personal accounts of it?
I think a lot of times that people have these experiences, whatever field it's in, whatever type of cryptid or monster or ghost, any of that sort of stuff, 99% it happens to people that aren't looking for it. It's something that happens to you. It's not something that you can make happen. I also don't think that everyone necessarily has the ability to see it. Maybe I think that there's some sort of veil between us and them. And I think sometimes maybe it accidentally slips, or, you've just got that capability in you to just inherently be able to see it.
Well, and also it seems like, just going off with ghosts, that a lot of times a lot of kids will see it. And then when they get
Mhm.
older, they stop seeing it. And I
Yeah,
always wondered about that. I was like, right, is it just like they're getting conditioned not to look for it, or is the world just gets so busy you stop looking for it?
no, I think that's part of it. I think part of it is conditioning. I mean, we could go on a whole avenue about why that is, but a part of that I think is conditioning. And a part of it is when you're a kid, I think you're not as distracted. Your brain is not filled with a thousand other things at all times, so you have this natural resting state to your mind that allows you to be more open to things.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
as a kid, you're going out kind of exploring more
Yeah.
versus
Mhm.
like, I don't know, just me as a kid. And again, my kid years were spent in a haunted house, so it's a little bit different. But I remember,
That's pretty cool. I mean, maybe not cool for you at the
look,
time, but
yeah, looking back at it, it's cool. At the time, it was pretty terrifying, but I wouldn't be here without it. So that's one thing. With some of these connections that you're talking about, is one of them lost time? Because as I read a couple different books, but I've even seen it with like Loch Ness monster encounters where
Mhm.
people lose time. So is this one of the connecting kind of like things you've seen?
Definitely time loss is one of the things because that happens across the board, regardless of what cryptid you're describing. That's something that happens a lot. Electromagnetic interference, as far as like cameras glitching out, batteries dying, stuff like that. That's another thing that happens. So another thing that I'm trying to do with putting out this TikTok series about how it's all connected is um I want to bring up the woo side of it, the paranormal side of it, the unknown, but also give scientific explanations as to why these things could happen as well. Because I mean, there is scientific explanations to all this stuff if you really look for it. There is, sometimes it's like, yeah, you could explain that, in a scientific way, but is that really what's happening? Because it seems like kind of a stretch. So I don't know this until any of the stuff really gets figured out. We're just gonna have to keep exploring everything, regardless of how crazy it sounds.
Right. Well, I think just having an open mind in the field is very important because until I mean it's not like a set science right now, so anything could be possible.
Hmm.
I mean, to be fair. And so we always try to listen ourselves to everyone's stories and try to help if we can. For you guys, when you do your Bigfoot sightings, is there parameters that everything has to hit before you go out, or do you go out every time? Like, how does that work?
No, when I go out with Creature Man, that's the Bigfoot hunting group that I'm with. We typically always go to the same spot, and Stevie has gone out to that spot years before I even joined the team. Because there's consistent activity and evidence that pops up out there. And a lot of Bigfoot researchers will tell you that frequenting the same areas will tend to produce results a lot easier than going to a new place every time.
Yeah, and I've read accounts where people will live in like a certain area. There's a place called like the Big Thicket in Texas, and of course like the Appalachian Mountains and stuff.
Mhm.
But like the longer they're out there, maybe the more comfortable the Bigfoot get with them.
I hear that actually from a lot of people, especially people that have them that live like on the outskirts of their property, that live in more rural areas. And I love those stories though, because a lot of times these people say, when we first moved or first bought the property, we first got there, they were really aggressive. It's like we could see them, we knew they were there, but they would break things and throw things and slap the side of the house and like try to intimidate us almost out of our space. But once they were there for a long enough time and they got comfortable with each other being there, it's kind of like your neighbor waving at you across the street, back up. All right, there he goes. He's walking across the yard again.
Yeah, the Sasquatch Outpost here has a braid from one of their horses,
Has a
where
what from one?
like a braid, like a
Oh, a
Bigfoot came
braid.
and braided the horse's mane,
That's cool.
and it was like their stallion. So he's like really kind of a feisty horse. So they're like, I don't know what got him to stand still like that, but something big did.
Wow.
Have you guys heard of anything like that?
Not fashion tips from Bigfoot. Have not heard that one yet. But as far as gifting people, um, I always kind of make the joke that they're kind of like crows. They like small, shiny things. Um, the results people will get, like if they leave food like food out for Bigfoot or something, and they're like, all right, leave it a sandwich or an apple and some peanut butter or something. The food will be gone, but there'll be like a marble or like a really shiny shell, or it's always like these tiny little sparkly trinkets. So that's something I do when I go out. A friend of mine is a glass blower, and he made me little Bigfoot presents to leave out, overnight to see if they get taken, which they never have. But it happens to other people. So
Well, see, you just got to go out and leave the trinket with like some food. Like, is there a specific food that they like a lot? Because I've like seen like pies and stuff and squash.
Mhm. They, as far as I know, the largest success is apples. They really like apples. They also really, really like the smell of bacon. Like Bobo from Finding Bigfoot, that's something that I've heard him say before. Is he's like, I'm telling you, when you go out there camping, he's like, bring bacon, start frying that up. He's like, it works.
I mean, the smell of bacon, it's hard to pass up personally. So,
Right. That's that's gonna make a lot of things happy. So
yeah, me and Bigfoot, we can relate there. Sam, do you want to ask some questions before I just like cut you off?
Yeah, I kind of want to circle back to one that was kind of brought up, but back to how like children or like younger kids see things. It
Mhm.
could be more because the brain is still, or like the skeleton of the brain is still more malleable, so it's easier to like peep into that veil before it gets closed off as like we get older.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I wonder also, like, your pineal gland can calcify over, like things like fluoride in the water will physically, like it's something that actually happens, will calcify that pineal gland. When you're young, everything is new. It hasn't, you haven't toxified your body yet at that point. So I've also wondered about that, if that could have something to do with it as well. Because that, DMT, what that does to you, that's your
Hmm.
brain produces that naturally. That's what causes you to dream and things like that. And so if that's hardened, if that's calcified over, the slower that's going to be released. And when you're a kid, probably get free access to that, which sounds like a lot of fun. So
Hey, I had some crazy dreams growing up, but yeah, there's
Hmm.
fluoride in the water, so it makes you wonder, right?
Mhm.
Oh, it's all intentional.
I agree with you, Sam. I agree with you.
It's all intentional.
Hmm. Yeah, I could go down quite a few rabbit holes about that, about the
Same.
agenda of the man. I guess it's easier to laugh about it than cry. So make a lot
Right.
of jokes about that.
Another question is have you, like, since you are doing research, have you had a ghost experience yourself, or have you not experienced something along those lines yet?
I have never seen a ghost. I've never thought maybe what I had seen was a ghost. I do think that I had a demonic encounter when I was a kid, and I have some pretty, I wouldn't say regular or reoccurring dreams, but a couple times a year that same thing that I had seen when I was a kid will come back up in my dreams. So I kind of wonder if that's what that was sometimes. I'm kind of a lucid dreamer anyway, so I mean, I don't know. I don't know how my own brain works, I guess.
No,
No,
that's fair.
that's interesting there because I and Sam can attest. I've had very similar dreams over and over again,
Hmm.
and it can be like the most random dream. Like in one, I was helping some buddies look for a house, and I went in the garage, and like the garage shut, and I went into the living room, and the door behind me locked, and then it was the house I grew up in, and like I could feel the spirits coming for me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
wouldn't ignore that.
yeah, I've had that a lot. So
Yeah.
different aspects. Like I'll be in something, and the next thing I know, I'm like, oh, it's the Hamilton house. Oh, we're
Uh-huh.
here again.
So, I mean, you were saying that, that was a haunted house. Whatever happened to there must have had a significant impact on you, whether or not it's something from inside that house coming back to say hello, or it's your brain kind of reliving that trauma. I'm sure that was traumatizing as a kid.
Oh yeah, and it wasn't just our family. We're still friends with the neighbor next door, and all the families post have had experiences as well.
Really?
Yeah, and very very similar, which made me feel good because I was like, hey, I'm not crazy, so that's good.
That validation is always nice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, that's pretty nuts. I used to dream about this thing, and I used to tell my mom when I was a kid about it. You know what? Have you ever seen a cat that has like a mouse in its teeth? You know, it's
Mhm.
like they you can see the cat's teeth, you know, whatever it's got in its mouth, and it breathes really heavy. You can almost hear it breathing, you like audibly hear it because it's like they pant or something when they have something in its mouth. But I dreamt about this thing when I was a kid that had a mouth kind of like that, like it was panting and breathing through its teeth. And this creature looked terrifying. Like it was not trying to put out a friendly vibe, but what it was saying was all very pleasant things to me. It would
Huh.
say things like, oh, it's like, I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to do anything to you. I just want to watch, whatever that means. It's like, if you let me hang around, you let me watch, I'll give you all these beautiful things. And it showed me this garden with these like beautiful neon fruits that don't exist on earth and all this beautiful stuff. And it's like, I don't want to hurt you. I just want to watch. Are you okay with that? And then I would have dreams about that reoccurring throughout my life. Like the last one that I had, and also this is weird, for some reason it's always on the ceiling. It's never like standing next to me or like behind me. It's always on the ceiling. And the last one that I had, I had a dream that I was laying in my bed and I looked up and there was a little redheaded girl that was on my ceiling and she smiled at me and it had that same mouth to it. It had the same teeth. So I'm like, you can't trick me. I know it's you.
That's
Since
wild.
I have you on Facebook, what I want to do is send you this picture if I can find it. I want you to tell me if this is kind of similar to what you've experienced. Let's see.
No, but it is kind of interesting that you started with UFOs because, as far as Keegan and I are concerned, we started with ghosts, and then I had UFO. Well, I wouldn't. I had weird things in the skies that I saw that I couldn't explain. Is essentially how I will say that.
Right.
So
I
I
mean,
got into that. So I'm curious on like the cryptid side since I've potentially had two and maybe have witnessed an abduction or like an aftermath from an abduction
Right.
in one of them. And then we were talking with Matthew and he was like, well, you may have been abducted in that. And I was just like, I
And you
wouldn't
just
put it
don't
past it.
and you just don't remember it, you know. I mean, that's the thing, you know. It's like people come to, and that's when they experience the time loss, and then you know they don't remember where they were for that last hour. Um,
Mhm.
yes, yes, Keegan, that's very similar to what I saw. It's real nice for everyone out there if you could see that.
that's what. So that's something my dad saw and then I saw. So that's why I was like, when you were describing it, I was like, huh.
Well, besides the cartoony face on it, which is funny, but actually a badger teeth would probably be a good way to describe that. But yeah, it was more. This thing was more human-like. It had more of like a human type structure to the face, but it definitely wasn't. But yeah, I wouldn't say that that was a ghost thing because I didn't see it. I never see it in a waking state. It's always in a dream.
Hmm.
So, but I mean, and it's funny because you were saying about the dreams that you had that you'll be like, oh, like you walk into the place and be like, oh, I know what this place is, even if it doesn't look like it. It's like that's what it was trying to do when it showed up as a little girl in my dream the other day. It's like I know it's you though.
Yeah, it's weird how it's like, and little girl, that's like a very common thing with demonic like hauntings, where they're like,
Yeah,
it
I guess it
starts off
is.
with like a little like a kid spirit, like usually a little girl, sometimes a little boy, and then they're like, oh, actually, that wasn't a kid at all; it was a demonic spirit.
Oh, that's comforting.
I was just putting
Glad
some
that's
connections.
happening now.
Hey, it can only hurt you if you let it.
That's true, actually. I saw something the other day. It's like, you know, ghosts would not be nearly as scary if you could actually see them. Like the lights flipping on and off. It's just
Oh
some guy messing with the
yeah,
light
it's like
switch. Like some guy picking a chair up and putting it down. Like, All
Yeah.
right, man.
Instead of the bowl floating, it's just someone carrying the bowl around. I guess it depends what the ghost looked like. If they just looked like a normal person, cool. But if they had like injuries or like scars or
Yeah.
decomposing, then that might be worse, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, listen, if you're gonna haunt me, can you at least be attractive? Because it's been through enough, you know.
I mean, there are those types of ghosts too, and apparently they're bad. So you don't want to meet those either.
Oh boy. Attractive ghost. That's a whole new level of bad boy for me. Like,
Well, I was thinking of like succubus and incubus or whatever,
oh yeah,
where they're
yeah,
supposed to be like super attractive and stuff, and apparently they like just take life essence. I have not run into one, so I don't know.
yeah. I
Cannot
wouldn't.
attest.
I probably wouldn't want to do that either. That's pretty confusing. I'm still gonna do it, but like,
Lost my train of thought.
Just blame it on me. Just it was my
No,
fault.
it's all good. No, it's partially my fault from the car accident that I had, and my brain's never been the same since. But it's gone again.
well, that's okay. We'll remember.
I will. Give me a minute.
Sam, just casually raise your hand when you have when it comes back, and then I'll
Okay.
stop.
I will.
So, did the two of you grew up in the same area? You said.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
I've known Sam since 7th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, so quite a bit. He lived kind of close to one of my houses. It was the house after I moved out of the haunted house,
Mhm.
which we have a weird story there because there was this kid that the teenager rolled his truck and passed away kind of in the fields near our house.
Mhm.
And after that happened, we'd be at the dinner table and the deadlock would, and we always just thought it was like him trying to find his house because he lived around us.
Mhm.
And so we're like, oh, that's weird. And it would just happen. You just see it go.
See, I've never seen that kind of stuff. I mean, I've definitely been really connected to the alien side of things, the extraterrestrial, whatever that is, the big, Bigfoot things. I tend to be really connected to, but for someone who is involved with stuff like this, I've never had a ghost experience. I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen like, an old woman in a white gown like floating across, but I've never even seen something, a door handle jiggle, nothing like that.
I mean, it's very hit and miss. We can always offer to take you to a place, but the chances of finding it are like 50-50. Like,
Yeah,
because
well,
there's some places super good, and then the next time you go, you're like, well, at least we're outside. This is fun, but
yeah.
nothing's going on.
Hmm.
So
And it
that's
depends
how,
on the spirit. Like if it
yeah.
wants to be seen by like whoever's there or like their energy. Because we brought some people along that it like sapped on their energy and like was more active because of their fear. And it was like feeding off of that fear.
Isn't that funny how fear is something that happens across the board too? Especially with UFO encounters, demonic activity, things like that. Fear for it's like that negative energy, like it kind of gives them life, which I think has a lot to do with. Well, never mind. I won't get into that. But there's a certain person who's there's like this list that's supposed to be released soon,
Uh,
this guy that had this island and stuff, it's like, but that fear, because if that was like a satanic ritual type of thing, for these people, that would produce the largest amount of fear if that was coming from children, if they were trying to summon something up or tap into it.
so you're big into UFOs. Have you ever been to Roswell?
I haven't.
Oh,
No,
man.
and I know I don't know why that is, because I've driven to California twice. I probably should have like taken a detour, but no, I've never been to Roswell.
If you go, I recommend going when the festival's happening. So much fun.
Yeah,
Mhm. It's a
Yeah.
blast.
I've heard the people at the alien conventions are their own spectacle.
Yeah, it's weird in Roswell because during the festival you have obviously the UFO museum, so you have all the speakers and stuff there, and then you have like Galacticon, which is like a Comic-Con type of thing going on next door, and you got like history people going on. So it's this weird like hodgepodge of everyone coming together, which I enjoy because you can just like meet people you might not meet in the same like niche or whatever.
Yeah. But one other thing I really like about those festivals too is like, just if you go for a walk in your neighborhood, you're not going to be able to have these conversations with probably anyone that you encounter. If anything, you don't want them to know that you're doing this stuff because they're just not going to get it. But when you go to those things, it's almost like you can feel everyone in the room like, oh, all right, can we talk about this now? And I like that. I'm happy for us as a community.
I bring up everyone. I don't care.
Yeah.
I've talked to people that are super Christian, and like I'm just like, so what do you think about like this type of stuff, or like if this happens? And I watch them like sit there with like a loading bar for a little bit, and then they're just like, nah.
Like, I mean, no, this our first interview was our local pastor, but he was like, he talked about some paranormal stories he had and stuff. Oh, so that was kind of fun.
Some are very open to it.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Do you remember before we started recording, Keegan and I were talking about the West Virginia Bigfoot Festival that I was at, and they had us take out these groups of people up into the mountains and give them their first Bigfoot hunting experience. This is how you do the calls, this is how you do the tree knocks and stuff like that. And one of the guys was like a church elder or something. And he was out there doing it. And one of the things that he had said is he's like, I love my faith. I love my church. He was like, but if you ask anybody in the church what they think about things like aliens, or you ask them about Bigfoot, they give you really short, chopped up, dismissive answers. And he's like, and there's so many parts in the Bible itself that talk about these things, and it gets swept under the rug. It's like nobody wants to talk about it. So that's really interesting that a pastor was your first interview.
Yeah, he's actually been on a couple times. I know when we interviewed him the first time, it was like super short. It wasn't like anything like this length or anything. But he was talking like even in the Bible, it talks about ghosts. So
yeah. Well, I mean, the Bible has been rewritten and copied and pasted and glued back together so many times. It's like, like the Book of Enoch. That's the most significant one. It's like, oh, so this is the stuff you really don't want us to see. I'm going to go ahead and read that then.
Right. Yeah, you always got to go to the section that says don't read. And you're like, what's back there?
I will push the big red button.
One of our bookstores, it's not like a big branch or anything, just like a local bookstore, but they have a section that's like the banned books or the books they don't want you to read. So I always stop by and look, and usually it's ones you're like, okay, yeah, I mean, I read that, whatever. Every once in a while you'll find something kind of fun.
So you would like this. When I first started, after that experience, when I was when I was 13, when I was in my early 20s, there was a guy that lives here in town that I ended up meeting that knew a lot about this stuff. So I was hanging out with him a lot. And I'm like, wow, what's this? And, he turned me on to like David Icke's talks and stuff like that. And he was like, you want to learn about alien stuff? He goes, go to the used bookstores in South Sarasota. And I was like, why in South Sarasota? And he goes, well, like 15 years ago, there was an alien cult in this town. It was huge. And I don't remember why it disbanded, but that cult ended up disbanding, and all of their books and all the literature and like everything that those people had, they just gave it all to the Goodwills and the used bookstores that was in that area. So I went down there and I found some weird stuff in those Goodwills. I'm like right here in this town. And I was talking about that on another podcast the other day. And the guy's like, oh yeah. He's like, you didn't know about that? I'm like, because this town is, it's very wealthy. It's very, I don't know how to say it, boat shoes and button up shirts kind of a place, and so I can see why maybe that kind of got hushed a little bit, but apparently that was a huge thing here, which would be very out of place for a town like this.
Now, when did they get disbanded?
So I think he had told me that it was like 15 years ago, and that was almost 20 years ago. So,
Were they still active when you had your experience?
oh, I guess I guess they would have been if that timeline. Yeah, let me see, because that was about 10 years, maybe a little more than 10 years after that experience happened. And he said that it was like, yeah, actually, that's, I'd never thought about that. And that's really cool. I'm going to have to look into that now.
Right, you'll have to do some research on like the cult and see if like anyone,
What they
yeah, what they did.
what they did. Yeah, because like I said, I'd found that woman one town over that had a similar experience, and she actually had an email address on there for like contacts because she wanted to talk about it. And I tried to email her, and it just kept coming back an error saying that the email address didn't exist anymore. So I was never able to talk to her. But yeah, I'm really glad that you just said that. I'm a little disappointed in myself that I never thought about.
Hey, that's what happens. I write a lot, and I will miss stuff, and then I'll give it to someone. They're like, "Why did you? That's not the right grammatical spelling." I'm like, you know what? The brain just like sees what it wants. So you need a second pair of eyes sometimes to.
Well, again, since I started talking about this openly, publicly, like on platforms like this, people say things to me about it all the time that I had never thought about that are really obvious. So, in one way, I'm kind of glad that I'm doing this now, just because I wanted to be able to get this out there to try to find other people who may have had this experience, but it's helping me too. It's helping me discover more about it.
Well, it's got to feel like a monkey off your back, right? Because you're not just holding it in.
Right. I mean, I've also reached a point in my life where I super don't care anymore. Like, don't care what it looks like, whatever. So that's part of the reason it feels nice is not giving a shit.
Right. Well, and with aliens, I think we were talking about this before we came on, but there's just a stigma about coming out and talking about things. And I think
Uh-huh.
aliens has been the last one to be able to kind of come out. But now because there's so much in the news and the public zeitgeist, it's almost the easiest to talk about.
Yeah. Can you imagine people openly discussing this like in the late 70s, like early 80s? Even then, even the 90s. Oh, I saw an alien. It's like, all right, dude, cheese is sliding off the cracker. Like, but that happens a lot with Bigfoot encounters too. Even now, there's my friend Mike, I travel around the country with him in his shows periodically, and he'll give one of his presentations. And I love doing this in the rural areas because like this happened to us in somewhere in North Carolina, but this old dude came up to him after the show and was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here." He's like, "I've been wanting to tell somebody this story for 25 years." And he's like, "So this thing came out of the woods." And it's like the relief on some of these people's faces when they can like tell somebody else about it without fear of being judged. It's kind of a beautiful thing to watch. It's like, oh, did something scary happen to you too? We can talk about it. Like,
We can trauma bond together,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even for me with like our ghost experiences, it wasn't something I talked about till I would say like 2007-ish. Even like middle school, high school, it just was like so stigmatized still.
Yeah, for some reason I feel like kids are quicker to start cracking jokes and start making fun of somebody. Kids are kind of like that anyway, but um but that's I think it's really cool that you guys had these experiences, when you were kids together sort of in the same area, and now you're able to go, come together and do this with, because so many people have to do all this by themselves. They got no one to bounce the ideas off of even. So I just think it's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, and I think that's one of the best things about social media is it's helped bring a lot of people together that wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah.
And it's just helped, and maybe not helped in certain aspects, but I think the communities are getting better because when we first started ghost hunting, it was like very cutthroat. Like I don't know about how it is with the cryptid investigations, But it used to be like you would be like, I found some evidence, and like the other groups would like just like hate you and like stop talking to you.
Oh, well,
Yep.
a bunch of grown men not talking to each other. You're not my friend anymore. So, yeah, there was. I mean, there are some people like that in this community. Someone said this phrase to me not that long ago. They're like, you know, who does stuff like that? You know, who hates on other people's research? Are Bigfoot boomers. It's those people from that generation, like the Patterson Gimlin film came out. They refuse to believe anything other than Bigfoot is a flesh and blood creature. There's no woo to it. There's no paranormal anything, even though, I don't know, all of the evidence suggests against that, you know, but they will not listen to anything but that. They want to see footprints. They want it. They want the hair sample, you know, and the only thing the strictly biological Bigfoot people have ever produced is copies of footprint casts. That's pretty much it. I mean, that is some vocalizations, you know, that have been recorded, you know, some famous ones like that, but you've never produced a physical body of one of these things. So until you can do that, we're going to keep gathering, you know, the woo side of this, you know, the paranormal side. So yeah, they do like to hate on each other a lot, especially there's like a territorial thing that sort of happens. Like if one person's been researching this one area, nobody tells anyone else where that spot is, because then other people want to infiltrate it, and then you get hoaxers too. You know, especially the Bigfoot community. People want to go out there and you know, they're like, oh, we're going to put on a monkey suit and go run through the woods. We know these people are going to get out there, which is incredibly dangerous because most of us are armed. So, like, if we think something's coming to run at us in the middle of the night in the woods, guess what we're going to do? So, don't hoax people.
Well, plus, yeah, I mean, hoaxing in the ghost community is bad. And that's one of the bad parts of social media, because like then people want the clicks, so they'll go out and like hoax stuff. And
yeah, the wanting the clicks. I understand that, but you know what I found in this community as a whole, you know, in this whole genre, is that people that get caught faking evidence are exiled immediately. You know, because if one person's doing that, it makes the rest of us look like a bunch of jerks. Like no one's going to take any of us seriously if you keep doing stuff like that.
well, yeah, especially like in the alien community, because it's like it's already hard enough. Like the government says it's not real, and now you guys are doing that, and you're just helping them with their debunks.
Right, but now the government is saying it's real, which is one of the, you know, so I told you I've got this, like I'm in pre-production for putting out a TikTok series that's called Unify the Woo. And it's about connecting all these different experiences, how they intertwine. And one of the things that I'm bringing up on there is when that TikTok incident happened, you know, where they were the one that was flying, you know, when the Navy ships, you know, recorded the whole thing, and it was on national news. And what they had said is like, oh, you know, there's a UAP up there, unidentified aerial phenomenon. But if you go on the United States Congress website and you pull up the document and you read it, it doesn't say UAP. It says non-human intelligence is what it says. So they did actually say, they're like, oh, we don't know what this is. It's unidentified. But if you read it, it says non-human intelligence. So what are you telling us now? I mean, I think that's some pretty major declassification there. If I can go on a website and read it.
Well, and do you think there's maybe some soft disclosure going through media?
I think that's been happening since Hollywood became Hollywood. I think that's just releasing slow amounts of stuff. You know, I know that they say, you know, well, art imitates life, you know, and like Star Trek era stuff, and then it comes out. But somebody thought of it. I think by the time they already put it out, it's already there. We just don't have access to it. Things like 2001 Space Odyssey. That movie came out in 1969, right? And what does he do? The guy's sitting on a spaceship. He's traveling from one planet, you know, to somewhere else. And there's a TV screen on the back of his seat. And he wants to have a video call with someone when he's sitting on this thing. So, but he has to pay for it. So he takes out a credit card this little plastic card and slides it into a thing. So video calls, credit cards, the TVs on the backs, all of that had already been thought of and most likely already worked on at that point. That was 1969. None of that stuff existed yet, but it totally did.
Right. Yeah. It's always, we've talked to people that are like former military, and they're like, yeah, I always wonder how far behind we actually are from like what they got. And I'm like, I mean, if you guys are saying that, it makes me wonder even more because you guys were back there.
Right. Oh.
Yep.
Well, it's kind of on the media thing, since lately there's been a lot of like multiverse, multi-dimension movies or time travel. What are your thoughts on those?
Well, that's stuff that, I mean, we're definitely working on time travel and the ability to, move faster through time and space like that. I mean, we're openly already, what's it called? The particle accelerator. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That those things are already being worked on. That's already a thing. I mean, I'm sure that, the progress is a lot further along than we're aware of, but, that's definitely gonna happen. Maybe not in our lifetime. We won't have access to things like that. But I mean, even as far as being able to recall and record our dreams, that's something that's already happening. I mean, I listened to a whole thing about it the other day. It's this device that you can apparently purchase, and you put it on, and when the part of your brain is activated that causes lucid dreaming, it can cause you to stay in that state. So you'll be to completely control, and you can record it and all this other stuff. And of course, it's going to be marketed as entertainment, right? So some big bazillionaire company is going to have access to your subconscious mind. It's recorded. So I wonder what else is going to get thrown in there, even if it's subliminal ads. So you're basically going to give a giant evil corporation access to your subconscious mind. Don't buy that. Don't do that.
It's almost like they made a whole movie series about being plugged into something.
Isn't that funny? What a coincidence.
Along with AI and dinosaurs and
Hey, if dinosaurs came back, Sam, I would be on board. I would go to that park no matter what.
I'd be so stoked. I would die to pet one of those things. I'd totally do it. Like, this is worth my life, definitely.
Right. Yeah, no, I have a whole museum on this side of me of just different fossils and stuff that I've collected. So I love dinosaurs. Well, speaking of Bigfoot, you're in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been down to the portion where the famed Dave Shealy skunk ape footage had been filmed?
No, but Stevie Strain's the guy that runs the group I'm in. He's been down there. He knows him. Also, my friend Mike's been down there too, but no, I haven't gone down there. Yeah, I haven't. I've only been working with this Bigfoot group for a couple of years. My focus was usually on UFOs, alien abductions, things like that. But now that I've gotten into a group and I started studying it, it's like now I'm kind of splitting off and branching off and exploring new things. But Florida's got a lot of activity. There's a lot of stuff out here, more than people think. And a lot of times people think that they think Florida and they're like, oh, just sandy beaches everywhere. Well, let me tell you something. That's a very small part of what this place looks like. This is a swamp, hellish nightmare down here. There are bugs and snakes and just nasty things out there. So I think there's probably larger amounts of undiscovered creatures in those areas that you cannot get to by foot than there would be almost anywhere else. If I was going to hide somewhere, it would be a lot harder for someone to find you in a swamp than it would be a mountain. Mm-hmm. You can go into the woods, but I mean, if you're brave enough, you can go out to the Everglades. No one's ever going to look for you there.
Right. That's what I said about the old stories of really big anacondas down in the Amazon. Mm-hmm. I was like, if someone goes missing down there, they ain't going to find them.
No. Body would be gone instantly.
Yeah, you might find that big anaconda, but it might find you first. Like, oh,
Well, the Stevie is actually down there right now. He's filming a documentary on the anaconda situation that's going on down there.
oh, in the
Because
Everglades.
yeah, he's been driving back and forth like on the weekends, going down there and filming. He's a great filmmaker, but yeah, we have snake problems here, amongst other things. Our general Florida man problems on top of that.
Right. Yeah, you guys have the whole Florida and
He's real. He exists.
yeah, I forget what I was watching something, and it was well, it was Shark Week at some point, but they're comparing bull sharks, and they kept showing like Aussies versus, and it was always Florida man. It wasn't like Americans; it was just Florida man. I was just like, what's going on?
It's a problem. Like, every town has at least one. Like, oh, don't worry, that's all one-eyed Willie over there. Just leave him alone. He's fine. But yes, so I am moving to North Carolina, though. I'll be at the foothills in the Blue Ridge Mountains here in a couple of weeks. Never been so happy in my life. So I've had enough.
Right. Well, it'll be a lot less humid out there for sure.
Yes, it will.
I have not been to either Carolina, so at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what you're missing. Well, Colorado's you got mountains. Is that, Sam? You're. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Oh, I've heard lots of good things about the Carolinas, so I eventually want to head out there.
Yeah, man, Appalachian Mountains. The Blue Ridge, all that. It's the oldest mountain range in the world. It's ancient. Like, it's been around as long as Pangea. It's the oldest thing on this continent for sure. Just for ghost hunting stuff, especially for you guys, that would be a great place to go. So I haven't done a lot of investigations per se like that, but I downloaded this app, the Ghost app. It's got all the EVP readers and all that stuff. So I had downloaded that, and me and my friend were up there hiking. One of my friend Veronica that was there for the alien incident. So we came across this really old graveyard that was out there. Like, the headstones were all worn off and a lot of them were crumbled, and we started like brushing them off and looking, and it was a Civil War cemetery that was there. And I was like, oh, this, let me see if anything's out here. Cause we were in the middle of the woods. I mean, this wasn't like a well-kept cemetery or anything. So I turned the app on, and the words state, service, and attention came up. And that was a Civil War cemetery that was there. So that was pretty interesting. That's the only, if you can consider that a ghost experience, but not really.
Well, see, now you got to take Veronica out on more things, because it seems like things are happening when you guys are together.
Yeah, but not to her. It's happening to me. Like,
so she's recording it the whole time.
Yeah. I'm on the aliens version of Punk'd. Like,
oh no.
It's okay. Sam knows if anything goes wrong, just film it for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. That's our cue. Have you had or know of any stories of some USOs, like submerged craft that
just
come
from
in and out of the water?
I haven't heard stories from people around here about that. I mean, I know what they are. I've seen it on different documentaries and things like that, podcasts, but I haven't come in contact with anyone personally that's had that experience.
Fair. That's one thing I do want to. If I get the chance to see, I would like to see something that you just see either come down from the skies and then just dip into the water, or come from the water and shoot up. It would be amazing.
Do you remember the movie The Abyss?
Mm-hmm.
The end, they go down there. It's I would really like it if that was real. I really would.
I mean, it's hard to say. People, we don't know much about our oceans. We know more about space than the oceans, and people are well, because there's nothing there. And it's just well, you can say that.
Yeah.
I mean, it may look similar, but
yeah, says who? Right. IT guy. Thank you for your valued opinion.
Hey, keyboard warriors, right?
Right.
Way at the YouTube comments.
The well, actually, guys,
Yeah, no. I mean, the ocean's another crazy thing that like we can't investigate because of like the amount of pressure, but like have seen some stuff like when those one people were looking for the like leviathan like or like octopuses or giant squids of the like past time, and they attached it to one that they got, and they saw tentacles that were like easily 100 feet,
Oh,
like
I
giant
don't.
things like down in the deep dark. And it's just like, yeah, no, I mean, I'm not surprised that they wouldn't be down there.
There's all kinds of stuff. I mean, I sailed down to Cuba with my buddy Cliff, who spent most of his life sailing to terrifying places on sailboats. And him and I were out there one night. It was the sail down there, and it was the middle of the night. And I don't know if you've ever been on the open ocean in the pitch black of night, but it's like being in outer space. You know, it's just all you see is reflections from the moon onto the ocean and vice versa. You almost can't tell the difference between the sky and the water at that point. And we're just hanging out on the boat, and I asked him, I was like, Cliff, I was like, you think there's monsters under there? And he goes, Julia, there's absolutely monsters under there. And, this man spent his life at sea, so I'll take his word for it. If he says there's monsters in there, I believe him.
Well, something water-wise that's near Florida is the Bermuda Triangle. What are your thoughts on that?
That's absolutely something that happens. I don't even know why it's a debate. Just the amount of people and ships and planes and things that go missing there. And yeah, there is odd weather phenomena and things like that happen, but I don't think it's because of where it's placed geologically. I think it's because there's something real weird going on there. The Alaskan Triangle, what is it? 2,500 people a freaking year go missing there? A year. That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
Especially for Alaska.
Yeah. So I mean, there's weird places. I think it's because energetically, like the same sort of ways, like the ley lines and the way that the pyramids line up all over the world with the stars and things. I think there's different energy vortexes, that can be tapped into. And I think that those triangles are just places where those vortexes are.
I mean, I've always played with the theory that maybe in those like specific spots are still like an ancient culture like base, and they use like those phenomenons when like people get too close, and so then something happens, and then they either shoot away or just get like just straight disappear or
Just
time
that
travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens. I love when those stories come out about people. I love that so much. They're like, they come out, they're like, what year is it? It's like, you've been gone for months, man. He's like, last thing I remember, I was walking along, and then I was somewhere else, and what was the story about the guy that showed back up in the desert like a month later, and he was like, I was about to get married to someone, and he got zapped out of it, I guess, and then like came back to the desert, which is where he went missing while he was hiking. And he was like, I had this whole other life, like this whole other thing that was happening over there. And then like a month later he's back, and to him he thought it had been like years that he had been gone. So
And
I
it
love
could
that
have
kind of
been
stuff.
years where he was at, like
Where he was
time
at,
just
yeah.
like happened to be that way, like those portals.
Mm-hmm.
I've always heard about like random portals like popping up, and we had a guest that was just like, if you go through a portal, like leave, because you don't know if you can ever come back or when you'll come back.
Or what's over there either.
Yeah,
What's over there may not be what you want it to be. You may not be a billionaire celebrity on that side.
It's
It
very
could be
true.
real bad.
That could be, or it could be an interesting experience, because I heard it in another podcast, but there was like this gentleman that was back in the, I want to say, I can't remember exactly what year this like experience happened to him, but it was he was over in Europe, and he was like a teacher, and he ended up going into this like coma for like, at first it was just like a week, and then like he woke up from it, but then he was out for like a full year, and he ended up like in a body from someone from like the future, where like the society there was like way different.
Yeah,
I don't know if
I think I know what you're talking about. Actually, like there's something really familiar about that story. Yeah, because it was a guy that was in a hospital that was in a coma, and he came back and he said, yeah, it was way from the future, and I can't remember what was significant about that. Cool story, I know, but it was
Yeah. I mean, I
what
just
was that?
reminded me because like he was just like, yeah, this is a place where like all these cages that we have around like monuments were no longer there because they weren't even needed. And
Right.
like after your schooling years, like the society were very spiritual and they would only work for 4 years. And within that 4 years, that like I think it was from like 18 to 21, I want to say, is what he said. Like you would work 4 years, and then after that 4 years, you would have enough money to just like live out the rest of your life with whatever you wanted to do. But it was just like you do this like 4 years, and then like you were good, and like they were very spiritual. Everything was like not as crazy as it was, and like all the medicine and all that stuff, and like he woke up in like this person that he met's like friend's body, and his friend like took him on this tour of stuff, but like he never slept the whole time, and when he finally went to sleep he woke back up, was the crazy part of that story. But it was
Huh.
very interesting because it was like a book, and then he became a psychologist after that experience, and like he would kind of teach it to his kids a little bit, and like but very nonchalantly, but then like gave like his whole like journey or like documentation of that to one of his students that like met him at a bench right before he passed away.
Huh. Have Have you ever heard of the Urantia book?
I don't think so, no.
So it was you should at least really look this up, especially if anyone who's into alien stuff. So it what it was this guy had woken up in the middle of the night and he channeled something that was giving him information about what Earth is and about, it's sort of like a galactic federation type of thing. And he spewed out or wrote down this book. And I mean, this book has got to be this thick. And I guess people follow, there's whole communities of churches that still follow it. And it's about, aliens and what the earth is and different races of aliens and how the earth came to be and how it's being monitored. And it's like I met, there was this much older gentleman. He was in a retirement home when I met him because I Googled it to see, if there was any of those churches around here one time. And there was a guy who like was one of the leaders of one of those sects of the church for a long time. And so I met up with him and like he answered some of my questions about what it was. But yeah, it's crazy. It's called the Urantia book, and it's about how Earth and humans are basically like aliens are gods type of thing. So that's scary.
I mean, it kind of makes sense if you like look into some of like the past like talks about like the like churches and all of that stuff. Like it kind of brings that up, and like there's other theories that have been brought out that I heard it at one point, and I don't exactly remember the source of where I got it, but like it's just like an interesting theory that like the earth was like a essentially a galactic library, essentially is what it was meant to be. But like there was like the whole battle in the skies, which kind of changed that course of action and other events, and could still potentially be like there's that black satellite that just sits up in the sky that like we all know about, but like isn't mentioned that often, but like was brought up at one point, and it's just like sitting there like observing essentially.
Right.
Well, have you heard the theory where, and I just read it, I don't know if I can pull it up, but that we're living in the universe's memory. Like we're between like when the universe died and when it's going to be born again. And so everything that's happening is just like a memory of the universe.
I heard
Oh,
that theory after like
that
the
is
2012 thing.
Yeah,
Like,
let me see if I can find it because I know
there's
I
like
saw.
another theory with it, like the whole like how the world was supposed to end in 2012 according to the
yeah.
calendar, and we're just like living out the last moments of that.
just before 2012 happened, Veronica and I took a trip down to Guatemala and we went and saw El Mirador and a lot of those Mayan pyramids and everything. We're like, well, if it's going to be the end, what a better place to kick it off with than,
It'd
Mayan
be
pyramids.
right. So the theory says we are not the universe. We're in its memory. What we see, stars, galaxies, even time, might just be residual patterns echoing through space time. There was a universe before ours. The universe is repeating. We are just in the overlap, a ghost imprint of what came before. So, what if, like, the
What? Hey,
ghosts we see are actually not the ghosts?
yeah. What if
We're the
they're
ghosts.
there? Yeah, where the ghost? Hang on. What was the name of that again? Let me take a note of that.
Let's see.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, that actually sounds kind of valid. So I'm gonna look into this more.
So, according to this post, and I don't know if this is the legit thing, it's called conformal cyclical cosmology.
Conformal cyclical cosmology. Okay. All right. That's gonna be a whole rabbit hole for me.
I just found it the other day, and I was like, it's an interesting thing to think about because everyone's always like big on like we're just living in a simulation or like whatever, but I've not heard that one before. So I was like, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it completely kind of makes sense. Because does this feel real to you?
Sometimes.
I feel like things used to feel real, and it really just doesn't anymore.
No, I mean, even today at work, like I heard, like I was welding, and then like I heard this like buzzer or alarm going off, or like some sort of like monitor going off, and I asked people, I was just like, so what was that sound? And they're like, I didn't hear nothing, and I was just like, wait, so am I just hearing things now? Because like it was very visible to me. And so like I asked a couple people and some people that didn't wear headphones, and I was just like, what was the buzzing like before lunch, or like this sound? And they're just like, I heard nothing. And I was just like, okay, cool. I'm just losing it apparently. Just, or like it's one of those things that like that veil was just opening up and I was hearing something from another thing, but like I heard it very clearly like over my music, and
Yeah.
like I have hearing plugs in, and it sounded like it wasn't loud enough to like when I took it out, it sounded louder, but when I put the hearing plugs in, it was like softer or quieter, but like nobody else heard it apparently. And I was just like, okay, well, I
It's
have
like
many questions.
you kind of slipped out of the timeline for a second, then came back in.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time with us, at least,
Right.
because we took a trip to like Roswell, or we're going to Roswell, but like we're heading towards Lincoln, and we went down this like the road called Vaughn, and like each time we've gone down that road, like weird stuff happens. Like this was like the first time we experienced something, but like I felt like we passed through like maybe a portal or a bubble is the way I explained it. It was like it reminded me of like what it would feel like when the droids pass through the force field in Star Wars. Like it felt like you were just like passing through something that like it like moved around you. But like we
Like
continued to
it's
go.
so like sort of like you were moving through jello or something, kind of
Essentially like that.
like
But it
right,
was
like you
like a
can
very like small thing to where it was just like I felt it like ripple through me, and I was just like I like was like watching a video on my phone and like looked up and like looked around me, and I was just like, huh, that was odd. And then we just like kept driving down this road and driving down this road, but like the miles were going down, but the time was going up by like 5, and then like another 5 minutes. So like it was just like we were gaining in miles, but like it was going up by like it went to like 4:10, 4:30, like 5 o'clock we would show up. Like we were just like our buddy Matt, who was in the passenger seat while Keegan was driving, was just like, is it just me, or does it feel like the time is going like increasing, but like we're still going traveling in miles? And Keegan was just like, I'm glad you noticed that because it was confusing me. And I was just like, well, I was noticing it too, because like I would look up and look at that, and it took us what 10 hours to get to Lincoln.
Yeah, which normally takes like seven and a half.
Mm-hmm. And then when
Huh.
we finally got to Lincoln, he ended up like getting a call, or like ended up getting a message that like one of the caretakers died in the Airbnb's like front yard, which it could have like, it was like prolonging us to get there so that it would be taken care of maybe, or we would just like
Right.
pass through a weird thing. But then the other times we've gone down this road, we've seen like basically a tornado, but like a giant dust devil. And then there was like a good like 20 to 30 other smaller dust devils that were happening down there. And then the last one we were going through was like a tornado storm that like almost was like very close a couple times to actually doing tornadoes.
So it
But
was something was definitely trying to put something in between you and getting to where you were going for sure.
oh yeah, but it was just like very weird with that whole time thing, because like ever since past that time, I have noticed that I can kind of, I haven't like practiced on maybe controlling it a little bit more, but like I have noticed that like if I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take care of this within this time, I ended up like doing that, if not sooner or like exactly on time. And
That's
it's like something
interesting.
that it can be manipulated, and I want to experiment with more. Because like even today I knocked through 150 welding pieces within like 4 hours, and I was just like, I want to complete it by this time, and I completed it before that time. It was just like,
So,
wow. And I
so
felt like I
that's
was going slow.
yeah. Well, I would very much like that ability, so I'm gonna have to come hang out with you guys at some point because I would
We'll
like
just
the
drive
ability.
through Vaughn.
Yeah, just drive
Just,
through there.
yeah. Now I'm curious on our trip coming up in here in September, because we'll most likely be taking that route. So
We
curious
are.
what
We
we
have to.
experience. Yeah, we have to take that route. So I'm curious what we're going to experience this time.
Hopefully, it doesn't reverse. You know, it'll be like the opposite. Is the most unproductive thing that could happen to someone. Like, it
Nah, even
takes
if
you
it
all
does,
day to do
whatever.
one thing. Like, that sucks so bad.
True.
Well, being into like the paranormal, do you have a favorite like paranormal movie? Could be cryptid, UFO, ghost.
See, what's my go-to? Well, I mean, honestly, I've seen this is embarrassing. I've seen 2001 Space Odyssey so many times, and I don't know why it is. But anytime, like, there's these long segments of the movie where there's classical music and it's just like other than the music, there's no dialogue or anything, and things are like slow moving across the screen and everything. For some reason, that makes me cry like I'm watching a romantic comedy. Like, I'm like, it's so painful and true. That movie I've probably seen, and I mean that's absolutely a paranormal movie. Um, Stanley Kubrick. Um, that one I've seen a lot. I mean, the Third Kind. Actually, no, what was it? Was that The Fifth Kind? The one with not Mila Jovovich, the other hot chick that kind of looks like her, but it happens in Alaska, in Nome, Alaska, and
Oh, the fourth kind
Oh,
The Fourth
yeah.
Kind, yes. Yeah.
with the owls.
Mhm. Yeah.
That one's a wild story.
I
I don't know if
love that story.
it is
It's a
really
great
good, but
movie.
there's so much weird things there that like they obviously were trying to make her crazy, but then I don't know. It's just like such a interesting story, and like plays a part with like a lot of people's experiences like past
E
that, but like
especially in Alaska,
oh yeah.
and the owl sightings, and you guys know what that means, when you see owls in the middle of the night like that, if they're coming to visit you, guess what? That is not an owl. So there's a lot of Native American lore that talks about that too, but
Yeah, I was
Mhm.
gonna say our buddy's Navajo, and he didn't. It was a bad omen to see an owl because it meant someone close to you was going to die.
yeah. Ugh.
So, kind of weird. He has some. His family grew up on the reservation, so they have some crazy stories. At some point, we'll have to get him back on and talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely Navajo. Do you know who Sean Klin is?
Mm-mm.
He's got a show on YouTube also. So he really is like a skinwalker guy, because obviously this whole skinwalker thing originated with the Navajo, and he gives the best explanations on his channel about what they are and what people are confusing skinwalkers for. And he's basically like, stop saying that you're seeing skinwalkers. You're not, because this is what they are, and they don't go there, and it's the wrong type of animal. And, you know, but you should check him out. Like, for if anybody out there really is like looking for solid, reliable discussions and content on skinwalkers, check him out. He's got a YouTube channel. That's really cool stuff.
Definitely.
He's cool.
Yeah. One of the stories Alan told us was his dad, I guess told us, but his dad was out with a friend. They were in a camper somewhere on the reservation, and all night there's like these cows. They could see the cows, and they kept bumping against the camper, and they could hear them like mooing and stuff. And they didn't go out, obviously, but they went out the next morning, and it was all human footprints.
Ew! Like mini, like little, like the Tennessee little people or whatever they're called.
Just like normal size human footprints.
Oh, normal size. I thought you meant like they were small. I don't know. That grosses me out.
No,
like,
yeah, just normal human footprints. And all night though, they had been seeing cows. Like even with their eyes, they saw cows.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Well, definitely, yeah, definitely check out that page though about skinwalkers, because it kind of changed my mind, especially like if it's like everyone, especially recently, wants to write everything off as skinwalker activity. They're like, you know, Dogman is skinwalker and everything skinwalker out there. It's like, it's not, you know, that's not what that is, you know. I mean, like even he'll explain that, like, yeah, it could be other animals, but most likely it's going to be like one of these three animals. You know, it's going to be very clear that that's what that is, and certain noises and stuff. But yeah, I think that's probably in my top list of things that I wouldn't want to encounter. Like, honestly, I think it'd be okay if, you know, an alien came to my room one night and was like, hey, what's up, man? Or like if I was in the woods and Bigfoot was like, how's it going? I'd probably be okay. But like a skinwalker, just kill me. I don't care. Like, I don't want to live anymore. That's enough.
What about Wendigo?
No, I'm not okay with that either. No.
Yeah, they're all kind of the same, just different places. Like,
yeah, but what they have in common though is that it's none of my business, and I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, if it's there, I'm going to be over there.
Like straight denial all day.
Right. Well, Sam, do you have anything you want to add before?
No, I think I covered it all.
Okay. I kept watching for your hands.
I know, and it's just gone. I'll probably think of it either later today or tomorrow, because that's usually how it goes. When one disappears, I'm just like, that's it.
Yeah. It's gonna Facebook call me at like 4 a.m. Like, so what I was saying was.
No, I won't go that far. That's everybody needs their sleep. I might message you later and ask it.
For sure. Well, yeah, anything. I'm sure there's something I would have wanted to say at some point too that I just didn't remember. But yeah, I don't know. I had a great time. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining. We'll definitely have to do it again. Maybe we'll even do a deep dive on 2001 Space Odyssey, because we haven't talked about that movie yet. So it sounds like you'd be the perfect person to have on to talk about it.
Oh, I got conspiracy theories on that movie all day, son.
All right. So that will happen at some point. But until then, if people want to keep up with what you're doing, and if you're going to any festivals that you want to promote, let them know. Where can they do that at?
So until I get the Unify the Woo page up, if anybody wants to share any of their experiences or have any questions, hit me up on Facebook. It's Julia Sims, 2 M's, SIMMS. And then my handle on Instagram is Julia SRQ8. So you can find me on there. And for anybody that's going to be at the URE's Bigfoot Festival next weekend, I will be there at the Shadow of Big Red Eye tent. So I'll be there all weekend if anyone's going to be in North Carolina.
Very cool. Well, thank you again for joining us. It's been fun.
Yes, it has. Thank you very much.
Once again, Sam and I want to say thank you to Julia for joining us on this awesome episode of Culz Interviews. Make sure to go down in the description below to find the links to go help support Julia and find out more about all the awesome research she's doing as well. But until next time, guys, for more Culz Interviews, click that link to your left. For more about us here at Culz Paranormal, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe. And let us know what was your favorite topic we talked about tonight. Tell us in the comments below.